The body of a Kearns woman who was kidnapped and killed has been found. Today at 5, the new charges and a new link to a West Valley City restaurant.
A police officer was killed and the suspect dead after a violent incident at the U.S. Capitol. What we're learning from Washington, D.C.
I'm tracking lots of sunshine as we head into Easter weekend here across Utah, but we do have a couple of concerns where we have a fire watch and heat concerns coming up.
New travel guidelines were issued by the CDC today. Coming up, learn more about the changes and who they impact.
They were shut down last year because of the pandemic.
Everything is movable, so it's really nice.
But this Utah businesswoman found creative ways to stay afloat. We'll show you. We start with a developing story. 4 people suspected in the murder of a Kearns woman are facing new charges as human remains found last month are identified as those of Nicole Solario Romero.
It's now been almost 2 months since she was kidnapped from her home and then killed. Fox 13 Spencer Joseph has the latest developments from the district attorney's office. Spencer.
Yeah, and the finding of her remains has actually really helped investigators in this case piece together who did what in this timeline, because it's a very complicated case, and now piecing together exactly what those 6 people that are now arrested did in this suspected murder. The body of Nicole Solario Romero has been identified and recovered after a long search. District Attorney Sim Gill Friday outlined that with this finding, more charges have been handed down.
We filed against 4 additional individuals as their part in this murder.
These are the 4. Through investigations, their part in this homicide has become clearer, adding obstruction of justice to all, abuse or desecration of a human body to 3 of the 4, and charges of murder to Carolina and Fernando.
Let me be clear, these are allegations at this time, so there's a presumption of innocence.
The documents with these arrests outline that her body was found on March 26th, wrapped in plastic bags, also saying those bags came from Carolina's restaurant, Tacos Mi Caramelo, just following her murder. That same day on March 26, Fox 13 filmed a UPD officer at the restaurant, possibly a part of this latest development in the case. The timeline is complicated and has required precision from investigators.
That communication and that cooperation becomes critical to be able to solve these murders. When you have different locations that are added to that, all of those things add up, and that's why it's taken a little bit of time.
And finding her remains has also been critical in this investigation.
And certainly, the more evidence you can gather, it strengthens your case.
But finding her remains also gives a sense of closure to those close to the case.
So for a community as at large to be able to recover that body, to move this process forward, also brings them a sense of security and closure as well.
But now the justice system takes over, and these 6 will begin their trials shortly.
This is the beginning of a process. So the measure of justice that they deserve is something that is still going to have to go through that process. And so the next stage is going to be in the next 24 to 48 hours, there will be the first appearances, and we start the judicial process.
The big question still is that why? Why did this happen? The only clue that we kind of have to it is in these documents. It's stated that Nicole was being questioned by these 6 people in relation to a close associate of theirs being placed in federal custody. That close associate, also a relative of Carolina's. But we are going to continue to learn new information about this as this case develops, and of course we'll bring it to you when we learn it. But for now, live at the DA's office, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Spencer, you mentioned the timeline of the case, and let's take a look back. Nicole Solario Romero was kidnapped from her home on February 6th. 2 days later, Unified Police called for your help, the public, in finding her kidnappers. The men who allegedly carried out the kidnapping and murder, Jorge Reyes and Orlando Tobar, were arrested on February 16th.
Another man, Ivan Acosta, and Romero's boss and landlord, Carolina Marquez, and her son, Fernando Marquez, were arrested on March 24th. A probable cause statement says the mother and son were both there at the time of the murder and helped clean up the crime scene. The man referred to as the mechanic, Christian Morales, was arrested 2 days later on March 26th. Romero's body was found that same day.
Stay with Fox 13 News as we follow the very latest in the Nicole Solario Romero murder case. We'll update you on air and always on our social media pages and online at fox13now.com.
In national news, a police officer and suspect are dead after an incident that put the U.S. Capitol on lockdown again today. The suspect, identified as Noah Green, rammed his car into officers before he was shot and killed.
Capitol Police Officer William Billy Evans died of his injuries. Karen Kafa has the latest from Washington.
National Guard troops inside the halls of Congress after an incident outside the U.S. Capitol Friday led to a total lockdown. On Friday afternoon, U.S. Capitol Police responded to reports of a driver ramming a vehicle into two Capitol Police officers and a barricade on Constitution Avenue. A senior congressional aide and U.S. Capitol Police tell CNN that driver exited the car brandishing a knife. The U.S. Capitol Police reported a suspect taken into custody. The suspect later reported dead. Two Capitol Police officers were injured in the incident. One has now died.
This has been an extremely difficult time for U.S. Capitol Police after the events of January 6th and now the events that have occurred here today. So I ask that you keep our U.S. Capitol Police family in your thoughts and prayers.
Congress is not in session this week, and few lawmakers are working in the Capitol complex. Congressman Ro Khanna of California had just stepped out of his office when it all transpired.
When I came back, I had frantic calls from someone on my staff saying, get away, there's an incident. And honestly, it did bring back memories of January 6th.
The scene with the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th is still fresh in lawmakers, officers, and Americans' minds. A massive outer ring of fencing erected around the campus after the riots was removed just weeks ago. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
President Joe Biden is aware of the Capitol incident. He is not in the White House, but at Camp David, where he's spending the Easter weekend. A former Salt Lake City police officer has now been arrested by the FBI for taking part in the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol back on January 6th. 50-year-old Michael Lee Hardin of Kaysville was taken into custody by the Joint Terrorism Task Force and the Utah State Bureau of Investigations. Hardin was a police officer until his retirement in 2017, serving for about 2 decades, and was named Officer of the Year in both 2012 for solving a 25-year-old murder case then at the time. He's now facing several charges, including disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted building.
Just in time for Easter weekend, the CDC has released new travel guidelines for fully vaccinated people, loosening some of the restrictions that have been in place for months. Even those fully vaccinated are still being advised to avoid large crowds over the weekend, but fully vaccinated people can gather with other vaccinated people without wearing a mask. Easter egg hunts are okay as long as they're outdoors while wearing masks and socially distancing. And the CDC recommends people attend virtual church services.
Fox 13 has been wondering, how do travelers at Salt Lake International Airport feel about these new guidelines? Fox 13's Diego Romo found out.
The new guidelines from the CDC come as more people travel in and out of the state for spring break. The spokesperson for the airport says numbers are up from this time last year.
We have been averaging about 20,000 people coming through the front door. That's not quite up to the pre-pandemic levels, but it's getting close.
Volmer says daily traffic is only down about 6,000 people per day from 2019. She expects the new travel guidelines from the CDC to draw more people in. On Friday morning, the CDC announced that fully vaccinated individuals will no longer need to get a COVID test before or after travel within the U.S. For international travelers, a negative test is no longer needed to get back into the country, and fully vaccinated people will no longer need to quarantine after getting to their destination or returning from international travel.
I think it probably makes it much more relaxing to know that once you're vaccinated and you've had your 2-week period, travel or being around friends and family is much less problematic.
The new guidelines only apply to people who are 2 weeks out from receiving their second dose of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine or a single shot of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Volmer says regardless of whether you are fully vaccinated, travelers should still remain diligent with health safety protocols.
We've done everything from adding plexiglass shields to additional hand sanitizer stations We've added the reminders to physically distance. Of course, face masks are required when traveling through the airport or on an airplane.
People I spoke with today say the new rules make it feel like life is beginning to get back to normal.
It's news to us because we've been flying since 6 a.m., but that sounds really good.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing because I think this COVID situation doesn't pretty much have people in jail and pretty much stop people from doing what they pretty much living the life they want to live.
Vollmer says the airport expects numbers to be at 85% of their pre-pandemic levels in May and exceeding those levels come summer. At the Salt Lake City International Airport, Diego Romo, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Still ahead, a Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star faces a judge once again. The latest on Jen Shah and her alleged involvement in a telemarketing scheme.
Plus, what researchers at BYU are learning about Alzheimer's disease and how it can be slowed.
And I'm tracking a very hot Easter weekend ahead. All of your forecast coming up.
We have new details on an officer-involved shooting on Valentine's Day in Cedar City. Prosecutors say police were responding to reports of an aggravated assault involving a knife. This is body camera video from Cedar City Police. The suspect drove away from the scene and led them on a chase. Authorities say multiple officers fired their weapons after the suspect rammed his vehicle head-on into a police car.
The only way to stop this individual is with their firearms. So their actions were justified. I would not prosecute them for doing this. They acted in the most reasonable manner they could.
The suspect survived the shooting and is now facing 3 charges of aggravated assault and multiple federal charges.
A new study by researchers at Brigham Young University suggests the effects of Alzheimer's disease may be slowed with certain lifestyle changes. Previous research attributes the origin of Alzheimer's disease to plaque buildups in the brain. And after studying RNA sequences in brains with Alzheimer's, BYU researchers believe lifestyle and diet are at the heart of the disease.
There's human evidence to suggest and to, in fact, show that in humans with Alzheimer's disease, you can rapidly improve their cognition by just increasing their ketones.
Interesting. Researchers say a high-protein, low-carb diet and eating less frequently are 2 ways to increase ketones. If you'd like to read the full study, we have it on our website. Go to fox13now.com.
Still to come, there will be some new clinics opening soon that offer just the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine, where you can find them and when they'll open.
And new numbers out today give us a full year's picture of the pandemic economy. We'll show you what happened nationally and in Utah since shutdowns last March and how that compares to our experience of the Great Recession.
2 days after approving the takeover of the Utah County Budget Office, the county commissioners have agreed to pause that move. With Tanner Ainge's recent resignation, the 2-person commission voted Wednesday night to take control of the budget from the Utah County Clerk Auditor's Office. In statements released today, Commissioner Bill Lee said, "Thank you to all the citizens and elected officials who have reached out to me regarding the decision to move the Utah County Budget Office. After careful consideration and deliberation with legislators, I support indefinitely pausing the action taken on Wednesday regarding the Budget Office." Commissioner Tom Sakiewicz agreed to the pause, saying, "After further dialogue with the clerk auditor's staff to find ways to reduce the $19.4 million property tax increase, I intend to pause the action of moving the budget department to the commission office."
Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Jen Shah and her assistant pleaded not guilty today to federal fraud charges. Shah and Stuart Smith appeared virtually inside a New York federal court. Again, this was a virtual hearing. They're accused in a $5 million telemarketing fraud case involving 10 other defendants. However, federal prosecutors say Shah is one of those at the top. The prosecutors tried to argue her fame makes her a flight risk. The judge is requiring her to post a $1 million bond to stay out of jail. For now, she's free on a pretrial release. Her trial is scheduled for October. New numbers show the American job market is surging back to life, gaining 916,000 jobs in March alone.
The pandemic took its first big toll on jobs in April of 2020. So today's numbers also give us a full year to see what happened. Fox 13's Max Roth joins us in studio with a look. Max.
Yeah, and you know, Bob and Kelly, it struck me that most of us have now been through two deep and dramatically different recessions. So here's a quick look at that difference between the slow burn of the Great Recession 10 years ago and the sudden economic trauma of COVID-19. This line shows the terrible, slow build of unemployment in the Great Recession, taking a 4.9% unemployment rate at the beginning of 2008 and gradually building to 10% in 2009. 4 years later, unemployment nationally was still high, just slowly ticking downward. Now to the pandemic nationally. In 1 month, national unemployment numbers shot far above where they were in the Great Recession. Then jobs started returning, and in 12 months, the gains continue at a healthy clip. Well, now to Utah's Great Recession. Our job losses rose pretty sharply, but still took over a year to top out at 8%. And then we stayed right about there for about 2.5 years. Better than the national picture, but still a long, tough time. And Utah in the pandemic, that same jarring, immediate climb seen nationally, though you see Utah numbers averaging about 3 to 4% lower than what the nation experienced. And that sharp rise just goes to show, if you feel traumatized from last spring, it's easy to see why. But recent job and vaccine numbers are offering something that we traditionally expect at this time of year: rebirth and hope. Live in studio, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
For anybody who has a job outside today, you had a beauty. Allison, yesterday you called it. You said this may be one of the top 10 days of the year. And
I called it on a Friday. I mean, and going into a holiday weekend, it doesn't get much better than this. The only thing that's better than that is Bob somehow matching the two of us. I mean, what are the chances? All of us wearing purple. We're getting our
purple
Easter colors, you know, our pastel.
Good Friday.
On Good Friday, that's right.
Yes. So
Purple.
we do have a holiday weekend ahead of us. We'll have lots of sunshine. It is just a really comfortable afternoon in Salt Lake City. This is a live look from the mountains, our Ocraquam, towards downtown Salt Lake City. We have temperatures in the mid-70s right now, so we're going to have a lot of sunshine. Our wind is out of the north right now at 10 miles per hour. And here are your top weather headlines on this Friday afternoon. Yes, today a top 10 weather day of the year. Let's go ahead and call it that. But we'll have a very hot Easter weekend ahead, so please make sure you're using caution, especially just drinking plenty of water if you're going to be hiking at all in southern Utah, wearing lots of sunscreen as it's going to be very sunny. We'll have a few passing clouds at times, but otherwise just a record heat-setting weekend here across the state for the holiday. And then on Monday, our wind is going to pick up. So with the heat and with the wind, that is going to lead to a fire concern. Fire watches will be in effect on Monday for eastern Utah. So here's satellite and radar. We have clear sky here across the state currently, but the areas highlighted in beige, that's where we'll have the fire watch starting on Monday morning. So eastern Utah, we'll want to make sure that we're being extra careful this weekend. But temperatures here across the state right now, it's about 75 degrees. So we're going to have warm temperatures for this weekend. Tomorrow morning, it's going to be about 50 degrees as you wake up. So it's going to be a nice start to your Saturday. And then tomorrow here across the state, if you're planning on doing any spring skiing, you can wear a t-shirt. It's going to be close to 70 degrees in Park City, but keep in mind it will be around freezing as you wake up. For St. George, around 90 tomorrow, and for Moab, low 80s. And then for Easter here in Salt Lake City, waking up 8 a.m., you'll have those temperatures in the mid-50s and then 60s by 10 a.m. So if you're planning some sort of outdoor brunch, it'll be a really nice weekend to do that, and that's COVID safe. So liking that plan, by the afternoon, you can definitely be outside. You'll have those temperatures in the mid-70s. So we do have a warm weekend ahead of us. It's going to be hot for St. George. We're going to keep things very sunny here the next few days. As I mentioned, a few passing clouds at times. Might see a few areas of drizzle for the mountains tomorrow, but I'm not expecting really any impacts as far as the weather goes this weekend besides the heat, and then come Monday, the wind. But April, let's go ahead and just talk about April climate for a second here in Salt Lake City. On average, an April 1st high is in the mid to upper 50s. So 58 is an average high as we start the month, and then an average high as we end the month brings us close to 65 to 70 degrees. An average low at the beginning of April in the 30s, an average low at the end of April into the 40s. So we do have warmer days ahead, and especially this weekend. Overnight temperatures will be about 35 to 45 degrees here across the state. Highs tomorrow about 60 to 75 degrees, and then close to 90 for St. George. It's going to be so hot this weekend. Close to 90 for Saturday and Easter Sunday. Monday, that wind picks up. Cool a little bit come Tuesday, and then you're close to 80 throughout the rest of the 7-day forecast. For the Wasatch Front, upper 70s through Easter Sunday. On Monday, 66, 50s for Tuesday, along with a few chances for scattered showers next week. Let's talk more about that coming up in my next full forecast.
This thriving Utah business was dealt a major blow by the pandemic, but found a creative way to reinvent and rebound. We'll show you.
Sex abuse victims blocked from bringing civil suits against their alleged abusers.
I think it's one of the worst decisions possible.
But today, the Utah State Legislature may let voters decide whether to change that.
In today's Money Watch, the stock market was closed in observance of Good Friday.
But Americans who lost their jobs last year and who have already filed their tax returns will have one less headache to deal with. Let me explain for you. The IRS will automatically recalculate your returns to account for the new stimulus tax break. That is on the first $10,200 of unemployment compensation received in 2020. It will then send any refund directly to taxpayers, likely starting in May and continuing into this summer, so you may be getting more money. The provision is part of the $1.9 trillion stimulus package that President Joe Biden signed last month.
2021 is starting fast for car companies. Industry data firm Wards Intelligence says sales for the first 3 months of the year are up more than 11% compared to last year. Edmunds says all the major automakers saw significant increases except for Ford, which saw weaker sales. However, car companies are starting to feel the pinch of supply chain problems, especially a lack of computer chips.
Well, listen to this. The dating app Tinder is reopening virtual borders by offering its passport feature for free now. So for all of April, users can set their location in any city or country and start swiping to find someone to date. So your options just got a lot bigger. The app hopes the feature will let people escape to a different reality without leaving home. Los Angeles and New York City are among the most popular passport cities on the Tinder app. Still ahead, see how a nonprofit is making sure people don't go hungry over the Easter weekend.
And rebounding from the pandemic, we'll show you how one woman is using creativity and innovation to keep Pierpont Place afloat in a Fox 13 News exclusive.
Welcome back, everyone. As we enter the Easter holiday weekend, COVID-19 continues to be on the decline here in Utah. There are 422 new cases today. The 7-day average positivity rate sits at just under 7%.
6 more Utahns have died from COVID-19. The lives lost include 4 women and 2 men. 4 of those deaths happened before March 1st, however. More than 2,100 lives have been lost in Utah because of the virus. More than 40,000 vaccine doses were administered yesterday. More than 948,000 Utahns have received at least 1 dose, and more than 541,000 are considered fully vaccinated.
As so many people continue to rush to get their first dose of the vaccine, experts are already looking ahead to potential booster shots. This week, researchers released studies about vaccine effectiveness 6 months after being administered. Now, one Intermountain doctor says the research is essential as states continue to lift restrictions and return to normal.
And we're going to have to follow that really closely to determine, is there a need for a booster shot? When is it that that immunity starts to wane? When do we need to boost that immunity to make sure we're protected for potentially another wave?
That's Dr. Stenham. He says if you are eligible, making a vaccination appointment is still the best thing you can do to protect yourself and others from the virus. Well, if you lost almost all of your income, could you keep going? That's exactly what happened to Janice Bowes. She's the founder of Pierpont Place, Salt Lake City's premier event venue.
When the pandemic hit, her business completely shut down. But Janice was determined not to be beaten by COVID-19 and decided she wasn't going to sleep while her ship was sinking. Normally, Pierpont Place in downtown Salt Lake is hopping. It's a full-service venue for parties, receptions, all kinds of social gatherings.
500 is our max capacity.
But when COVID-19 hit,
Completely shut down on March 15th.
and it was 4 long months of silence.
I woke up one day and I said, can't do this anymore. If I don't make the change, who will?
And Janice Bowes had an idea, inspired by restaurants that started delivering their food.
So I said, well, let's do floral arrangements.
So I get an order from Premier Events every other week.
Meta Driscoll is helping her friend Janice, and Janice is paying it forward. Every 20th flower order is donated to a frontline COVID-19 worker.
Well, tell me about this. Who's giving these to me?
These are
They're
from
huge.
Pierpont Place and Premier Services.
Oh my gosh, y'all, they are so beautiful.
Linda Christensen is a thoracic ICU nurse treating COVID-19 patients at Intermountain Medical Center.
I take care of the worst COVIDs.
And paying it forward affects everyone. Floral designer Sarah Lind is making today's deliveries, but has also made 2 COVID-19 supply runs to the Navajo Nation.
I have a girlfriend down there who's lost 22 family members.
Beyond paying it forward, Janice realized she needed to take action to rescue her own business and save the jobs of her employees. So she volunteered for boards, she networked, took out a PPP loan, and signed up for guidance from the Goldman Sachs 10K Small Business Program.
I didn't sleep until I figured out a solution.
And she realized that everyone on her team was rallying around her. Then she had another idea.
I've got an empty space here. We know how to design events. Let's create our own.
So without further ado, can I please welcome to the stage Cholula.
It takes a lot to put on these VIP, socially distanced, health department approved dinner shows. But her team feels a real sense of camaraderie.
We're so grateful to Janice.
Miranda and Tyler Thompson run Snap Happy Photo Booth. The pandemic hit them hard too.
We had about 30 events booked for 2020 and did 5.
So coming together again like this feels real good.
Ground beef mixture and mix your vegetables and then potatoes on top.
Oh my gosh, you guys are in for a treat.
Now that I can actually do this and stuff, it's like I feel, I can get out and do something with my life.
I capture everyone having fun, making sure everyone looks good. I use extra long lenses now, so I stay away from people.
It's exciting to see people get excited about what's happening here.
And always paying it forward, Janice allows cancer patient Leslie Bangeter to fundraise at these events for Huntsman Cancer Institute.
Zager Guitar out of Lincoln, Nebraska donated 18 guitars for me.
In fact, it's one of the major reasons for this event.
Every year I want to raise $50,000 for research for Huntsman Cancer Institute neuroendocrine cancer.
She really is making an effort to employ her staff.
I can't afford to pay them their regular price. I'm not making my regular revenue either, so they give back just as much, Bob. Again, we all give and take and are just so happy to work.
So as the pandemic hopefully is winding down, Pierpont Place is starting to come back. In fact, the next dinner show is Saturday, April 17th from 7 to 10 p.m. featuring Dames Brown. Tables are limited and COVID protocols are strictly observed. For more information, including ticket prices, go to fox13now.com. And I'll tell you what, my hat is off to Janice Bowes.
Yes,
Incredible
absolutely.
lady.
Yeah, great. She was able to adapt like that. I'm thinking about maybe a picnic this Easter weekend, Allison.
Yes, absolutely. Brunch outside. Lots of options for the weather this weekend. It'll be nice until Monday when our wind really picks up. But right now here across the state, it's in the mid-70s on a Friday afternoon. So that's why we declared today a top 10 weather day for the year. We have sunshine here across the entire state. It feels nice everywhere right now. We have temperatures even in the 60s for Evanston, mid-60s for Bryce, St. George, 80s. So we are in a very comfortable sweet spot heading into Easter weekend. So Salt Lake the rest of tonight, that sun will go down during the 7 o'clock hour. We'll be in the 70s until then. Then we're in the 60s until about 10 o'clock tonight, and then really not too bad waking up tomorrow morning. Our temperatures will be about 45 to 50 here for the Wasatch Front. But top weather headlines, we're going to have a very hot Easter weekend. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water, being really careful of pets and kids, especially in cars that can heat up very quickly. And really, if you're in southern Utah, it's going to be extremely dangerous for cars this weekend. Those temperatures just really rising. And then we're going to have temperatures on Sunday and Saturday potentially record setting. And then Monday is going to be so warm and so breezy, we'll have a fire watch for parts of the state. Let's talk more about that and what you can expect for Easter coming up in the full forecast.
See you soon, Allison. On Utah's Capitol Hill, lawmakers may consider a proposed constitutional amendment that would override a very controversial ruling by the Utah Supreme Court.
It deals with sex abuse victims. Fox 13's Ben Winslow has more.
The court's ruling blocked some sex abuse victims from bringing lawsuits against their abusers, but the legislature may take the issue to voters.
Totally inappropriate sexual misconduct.
Terry Mitchell sued now retired Judge Richard Roberts, accusing him of sexually abusing her back in the 1980s when she was a teenage witness in the trial of serial killer Joseph Paul Franklin. She was taking advantage of a law passed by the state legislature that allows sex abuse victims to bypass a statute of limitations and sue their abusers in civil court.
Terry has been the victim of betrayals throughout this situation.
The case went to the Utah Supreme Court, who ruled the law cannot be applied retroactively.
I think it's one of the worst decisions possible.
Now the legislature may overrule the court with a proposed constitutional amendment.
This time I think the judicial branch got it wrong.
Representative Angela Romero says the original law passed the legislature with bipartisan support. She says it can take years for sex abuse survivors to come forward to seek justice.
This is a way of holding individuals accountable and providing justice for these survivors who may not have been comfortable talking about this when they were a child, but want to make sure this person doesn't do it again.
Advocates for sex abuse survivors, including Mitchell herself, have supported a proposed constitutional amendment.
No one has ever been held accountable.
But even if voters approve a constitutional amendment, there's one person it won't apply to. Terry Mitchell herself. That's because after the Utah Supreme Court's ruling, a federal judge dismissed her case with prejudice, meaning it can't be filed ever again.
She will be the only victim of child sex abuse not able to pursue her claims against her perpetrator. It is a total outrage. It is the very definition of injustice.
Now, if the bill passes the legislature next year, it would be brought before you, the voter, in the 2022 election. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
When we come back, a Ute football legend is giving back to Utahns in need. See how one lucky fan is getting a very special gift.
When you can't watch Fox 13 News Live, watch us streaming online for free on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. Just search Fox 13 on your device to watch the news on your time.
Get the max out of your tax refund at iMart Express. With 2 pairs starting under $40, you'll spend less on the have-tos and keep more for the want-tos. Our prices won't break the bank. Your tax refund goes further at iMart Express.
Forget fancy dinners and flowers. At RC Willey's anniversary sale, we're giving you huge savings on everything in the store.
You'll find incredible anniversary savings in every department. Now that we're spending more time at home, comfort really counts. Take advantage of anniversary savings on recliners, mattresses, and more. We have dozens of dining and bedroom sets to choose from. You'll also save on sofas and sectionals. We're taking extra precautions so you can shop safely. Save store-wide during the anniversary sale at RC Willey.
Yeah, dude, that doesn't look good.
I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, I can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
General conference sessions for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will be broadcast worldwide on Saturday and Sunday.
That's right. This weekend marks the third conference that will be held completely virtual, all due to the pandemic. Now, sessions will be broadcast from the Little Theater on Temple Square, and all the music for the conference has been pre-recorded. The church says more viewing and listening options will be available, ensuring the largest global audience to date.
Now in a Fox 13 News exclusive, there are some big winners today in a special fundraiser we first told you about last month. Former Utah Ute and current Buffalo Bills player Zach Moss donated a pair of autographed cleats to be auctioned off, with proceeds going to the Utah Food Bank. Now we can tell you who got the shoes, and they're a perfect fit, so to speak. Caitlin Christensen is a huge Zach Moss fan, born into a family of Ute football fans. Caitlin says after seeing a link to our Fox 13 News story last month, she jumped at the chance to win. She won the drawing, and those shoes are now headed her way.
Either way, it was going to be a win. Even if I didn't win, somebody else would have won, and either way, I would have been contributing to the Utah Food Bank.
I just wanted to thank you all for your contributions to the Utah Food Bank. We really appreciate it. To show my appreciation, I will be sending Moss Mold t-shirts to all those who participated. Let's continue our fight against hunger.
The Utah Food Bank is still tallying up the donations, which will then translate to the number of meals they'll be able to provide. They also say it's never too late to donate. We have a link at fox13now.com.
Congratulations to everyone all around there. Here's another win. The Salt Lake City Mission is partnering with area churches this weekend to make sure families have a hot meal to celebrate Easter Sunday. Dozens of volunteers and organizations came together this morning to get all the food packaged and then sent out to families. Volunteers are preparing 1,500 meals that will be sent to service providers and then delivered to families in need.
We want to really be part of this. I mean, it's a lot of people in need, especially these days, and we want to be part of this. We want to be part of this, and right now, we don't care about how many hours, how much food we have to cook. We just want to be part of the community right now.
Such a great program. The Salt Lake City Mission says they've seen a 70% increase in need during the pandemic. The mission will be giving away more than 3,500 food boxes this weekend at 6 different locations. For a list of times and places to pick up those food boxes this weekend, go to fox13now.com.
Despite millions of doses having to be thrown out, Johnson & Johnson vaccines are coming to Utah. Still ahead, when and where people will be able to get the shots.
And later in sports, Donovan Mitchell reacts to the Jazz's airplane incident this week. Enough of a scare to make basketball take a back seat on his priority list. While the Red Rocks chase another championship, the Ute Gymnasts hosting regionals. Back in a bit.
A production error caused millions of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine doses to be thrown away. But vaccine directors say that will not change how much of the vaccine Utah will get.
2 new vaccination clinics specifically for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will open in just the next few days. But as Aaron Cox shows us, only a few hundred people will actually be able to get that vaccine.
Next week, the Davis Conference Center here will be a full-blown J&J vaccination clinic. The only issue is there is more demand than there is supply. It's a stop-and-go process.
Runs a little slower during lunch.
On weekdays, anywhere from 2,100 to 2,300 folks drive through to get the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine.
Our appointments here are pretty much filled up every single day.
And as soon as the Davis County Health Department announced a special clinic just for J&J vaccines,
Took only about 12, 13 hours for them to be all filled.
Trevor Warner, a spokesperson with the Davis County Health Department, says the state only gave them 1,600 of the J&J vaccines. Those who registered will walk into the Davis Conference Center to get the vaccine. The clinic will only be open for 2 days.
That clinic will be solely dependent on whether we have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine or not.
Carolina Heron with Nomi Health says they're seeing the same supply shortages.
We had around 800 that's being divided between Saturday and Monday, but we are looking forward to being able to get more.
Heron says 400 of the doses of J&J will be administered in Ogden beginning Saturday. They hope to have enough doses to continue their clinic every week.
If this is something you want to do, we are ready to help you.
We've got enough to do Wednesday and the following Monday, so that's what we'll start with, and then we'll kind of see what the future brings.
Warner says if the state does receive more J&J vaccinations, that they will continue to use this center to administer them. They'll send out the schedule as the vaccines become available. In Davis County, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, Davis County, Salt Lake County, any county that you're in Utah right now, we have such wonderful weather. Our temperatures right now are comfortable. It is in the 70s. We have blue skies, a live look from our Intermountain cam, and our wind is out of the north about 10 miles per hour right now, so we do have a comfortable breeze. St. George, this time yesterday, we had more clouds entering into southern Utah, but right now, low 80s, light wind out of the north, 6 miles per hour. And here on satellite and radar, you can see there's not a whole lot happening. We do have some rain off to our south, but here across the Intermountain West, we have sunshine and 70s and 80s for most of Utah currently. We even have 60s up into Evanston, 60s right now for Wendover, and also up in the mountains. It's been in the 60s for Alta and Park City today, but the rest of your Friday night here in Salt Lake City, look at these temperatures. They'll be in the 70s until 7 o'clock tonight, and then we'll be into the 60s for the next few hours, and then by about midnight tonight, we'll be back into the 50s. But Futurecast heading into Easter weekend, here's what you need to know. We'll have a few clouds at times, increasing or decreasing depending on where you are throughout the day. And then by Saturday, we're going to have the chance for maybe a few areas of pop-up, very light areas of drizzle, but nothing that's going to ruin your weekend plans. But if you're taking a long weekend or you're planning on camping into the early part of next week, or you're traveling back from southern Utah later this weekend into Monday, wind picks up on Monday, especially Monday afternoon. Very breezy out of the southwest. And we'll also have a front that drops in from the north that brings us colder temperatures and a quick chance for some rain and snow into Tuesday morning. So Monday night into Tuesday morning, then that's quickly out of here. And then our 7-day forecast keeps us mostly dry. Overnight temperatures will be about 30 to 45 degrees here across the state. So waking up tomorrow morning, if you're planning on skiing, it will be around freezing first thing in the morning, but then you could have a t-shirt by the second half of the day. It's going to be close to 70 in Park City tomorrow. Wasatch Front around 50 as you wake up. Saturday here across the state, highs will be about 80 in Salt Lake tomorrow. Close to 70 for Park City. St. George around 90. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water and wearing that sunscreen this weekend. Moab low 80s. And then for Easter here across the state, Salt Lake upper 70s, Park City close to 70 still, St. George around 90, and then for Moab mid 80s. So record-setting temperatures are possible statewide for Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll have our temperatures cooling a little bit by next Tuesday. Monday is breezy, especially across southern Utah. Then you're close to 80 throughout the rest of the 7-day forecast. And for the Wasatch Front, we're close to 80 through Sunday. And then Monday will start to cool a little bit. By Tuesday, highs around 60 and then mid 60s Wednesday into next week. So we'll have that chance for a few showers Monday night into early Tuesday. With the cooler temperatures, those snow levels will be mixing into the lower parts of the mountain resorts. And then we'll have those temperatures into the 60s next week.
An emergency thousands of feet up would frighten anybody, and it certainly did Donovan Mitchell. This week's plane scare bringing back memories of the Kobe Bryant tragedy. Mitchell finally admits he doesn't like airplanes and took Wednesday off to gather himself and settle on the fact that for a brief moment he thought it might be the end.
In the air for about 8 to 10 minutes, and the next thing you know, it was just a loud boom, as if like something had exploded on the plane, and We didn't initially just drop, but, you know, we were kind of looking around, trying to figure out what was going on and, you know, what to do. I was sitting across from Royce, and we were just kind of sitting there, just like kind of praying. I had texted my mom, my dad, my sister, just letting them know, like, this could be it. You know, like, that's a scary thought, just kind of saying, like, you know, I love you guys. Like, literally writing what could have been your last words. I think that was just, you know, for me, just the scariest part.
The Jazz's next scheduled charter is Sunday at Dallas, of which Mitchell said he should be ready for. In the meantime, Spida back on the floor tonight against Chicago. Utah bringing a league-best 7-game win streak into that one, not to mention 20-game home win streak. Good news for Utah gymnastics as the All-American Michaela Skinner used a Reddit Ask Me Anything post to declare that she fully intends to return to the Red Rocks for her senior season following the 2021 Summer Games in Tokyo, though with a caveat if her health allows that. Meanwhile, the current crop hosted an NCAA regional this afternoon at the Maverick Center. SUU also at Session 1. Mason Bentley, the T-Birds' high score, though. A third-place team finish was not enough for them to move on. To the Utes now, where the floor was their friend. Sydney Solaski and Miley O'Keefe with matching 9-9s. Go to bars, Crystal Issa leading the way, but the all-around goes to O'Keefe, including a meet best 9.95 on the beam. Utah plays first, followed by Pac-12 foe Arizona State, as both advance into tomorrow's regional final. BYU softball with a second straight upset over 25th-ranked Baylor. The Lady Cougars got them Thursday, then in game 1 of a double dip this afternoon, the Camas native Hannah Jo Peterson 2-run triple in the 6th. The Bears right back to the pitcher to end that 7-5 the final score. The Weber State Southern Utah football rivalry taking place in April this season, tomorrow afternoon in Cedar City to be exact. A tough spring for the T-Birds with some tough last-second losses, while the second-ranked Wildcats are fresh off a thrilling Hail Mary win last week against Northern Arizona. But in a rivalry game, anything's possible.
This is, you know, the one game that we look forward to because, you know, it's just nothing like an opportunity to play against your rivals and beat them. You know, there's a lot of trash talk, and, you know, they hate us, we hate them. You know, so it's always fun.
You know, it's important to our players. They understand what's riding on this game, and they'll be ready to go. Our guys will be ready to go, and their guys will be ready to go.
We'll be right back.
Allison, you kept your promise. You improved on yesterday.
I told you, and it's Friday. That's the best news of all, isn't it?
Yeah, and going into a very special holiday weekend for so many of you.
That's right.
Yeah, enjoy your Friday night, everyone.
Thanks for being part of Fox 13 News Live at 5. We'll see you back here at 9 o'clock.
Until then, bye-bye.